You're still watching Kakaaki, the African Voice, and it's a beautiful Tuesday morning, and just joining the set is Adaora. I don't know if I'm the one to welcome Adaora. Adaora should welcome me to Kakaaki.
Hello, stranger.
Your freshest conscript.
Oh, yes. Landed just at the Purview, and you know, the captain said, we're here on Kakaaki landed strip, so you're welcome. But you have one gentleman that seemingly you've kept waiting, so I'm sorry, Your Highness.
Yeah.
How you doing?
I'm all right. How are you? Thank you.
Yeah, it's about time we had a meal here.
Yeah, finally somebody said something this morning. He said, finally Kakaaki has a husband.
Oh, yes, with 3 wives.
3 wives. Can I cope?
Trust me, you will.
Okay,
you will.
We'll see how it
there
goes.
There are variables amongst the 3, don't worry.
Oh, really?
To your delight.
Okay,
to your delight.
I'll think about that. Welcome. The recent move for a cross-border fight against terrorism in the West African region may be coming a little bit late given the magnitude of both human casualties and the losses to infrastructure and economic values. But like the saying goes, it's better late than never.
Well, certainly, and it is quite a commendable move, one which gives much hope that perhaps in the nearest future, the threats of insurgency will at least be a thing of the past. In the thick of the insurgency activity in Nigeria, many have really wondered wherein the brotherhood and the African Union lies, as Nigeria appeared to get little or no assistance from her African brothers.
The summit, which was attended by President Goodluck Jonathan and 3 heads of state, had announced plans to deploy coordinated military forces to fight Boko Haram terrorists and to deploy an additional battalion and a command center to tackle the terrorists, with also an agreement that the command center for an already agreed upon multinational force led by Chief of Staff would be in place by November 20.
Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed and hope and pray that this time more positive results will reward these joint efforts. Meanwhile, the recent announcement by the authorities of the National Youth Service Corps of an introduction of a fee for printing call-up letters for prospective corps members have continued to generate mixed reactions.
Well, the NYC, in a bid to improve its operations, went into a partnership with a private company for the full computerization of the mobilization processes. However, the explanations of the core authorities that the fees introduced for the printing of call-up letters online was for services and infrastructure of collaborating firm appears not to have doused the apprehension of the introduction of the policy itself.
Well said, Uti. Even though there may be many upsides to the introduction as explained by the call, which includes the reduced risk of having to transport long distances to pick up call-up letters, many still question the monetary implications, which some view to be on the high side.
Well, today on our discussion segment, we would be taking a closer look at the 4,000 Naira fee for printing up call-up letters for NYC members and matters arising from the introduction. We would hopefully have someone from the Corps on set to throw more light on the innovation.
Now, moving on, as the 2015 general elections and its attendant hustle and bustle gradually peaks, the attitude and disposition of the political parties and political gladiators have become a source of concern for many.
While political maneuverings may not be entirely out of place in party politics, concerns are being raised in many quarters that the attitude, utterances and activities of political party bigwigs and their supporters do not degenerate into unsavory circumstances capable of jeopardizing the electoral processes come 2015.
Now, some school of thought have advocated for an inter-party coalition against violence and related vices during the electioneering processes, but given the prevailing political atmosphere in the country, just how possible could that be? Many have wondered.
Well, the expectations of political parties in the build-up to the 2015 general elections is what will engage our Bauchi Center today on our discussion segments from that axis. Our Lagos Center will also join in the discussions much later in the show and would be looking at unfolding developments in the fatal collapse of the Synagogue of All Nations building in Lagos State.
Well, we have our usual delight, well packaged, designed just for you. And we proceed on the show. Take this along with you, and please fasten your seatbelts. Well, if you're at home, just maybe a cup of coffee will do. To be a great leader, there's no such thing as a challenge too big to handle. Once you adopt this attitude, your people will follow suit, and every problem will present an opening for greater achievement. And like Henry Ford said, don't find fault, find a remedy. We take a break now, and when we return, we'll bring you Kakaaki Sports. Join us. I do have a modicum of courage that Keshi will not get away with this one not being scarred, because when you look at all the commentaries that runs in his plethora, a lot of people think either he should be sacked or pledged that he's going to bring back the cup. But then again, you wonder, a lot of people have said, what could be the problem? Could it have been the politics in the NFF, or could it just be sheer ego? Particularly, what do you think?
Well, I'm not the type that goes quickly to judge somebody, but I think it's just a cocktail of issues confronting both the team, the FA, the coach. Yesterday on the show we talked about some of them. The coach is still out of contract, you know, so his mind probably is not settled, and he's got issues with the guys in the federation.
True.
The players themselves there are trust issues with the FA. In Brazil, they had issues with their bonuses not coming on time, and the federation itself is just coming out of crisis.
True, true.
We just escaped 2 sanctions by FIFA.
True.
Before they eventually were able to elect a new board with the president, Maju Pinnick. So it's been a cocktail of issues. That's why I think blaming these guys and blaming Coach Keshi
is not totally the way to go.
Totally the way to go. Of course, he deserves some part of the blame, but we should look at the whole issue
open-mindedly.
Yeah.
Well, talking about leadership, now we move over to Leadership Clinic. Effective communication is key to reducing conflict and negative behavior. When the message is passed through the right channel, it accomplishes the purpose which it was sent for. Therefore, the need to acquire the skills that will enable you to communicate effectively becomes a necessity. Let's join Linus Okorie as he brings us all the interesting package on getting your message across.
So your ability to talk doesn't necessarily mean you're communicating. Adaora.
Yes, indeed. We were saying that, you know, while the show was, he was talking, and we said it's not enough to just open your mouth and speak. Sometimes when you open your mouth, it will come out as an argument, like a confrontation. So the person you're speaking to is already defensive, and then, of course, tempers flare.
I think that's most applicable in relationships. And also most here.
Yes, talking about relationships, there's so many kinds of relationship. Which one are you in particular referring to?
Oh, come on, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, let's look at a marital setting where usually the men blame the women for coming out too loud and too nagging and all of that, you know.
I think, you know, I think it works both ways. One is the environment, and 2 is also the source of argument. And I think also the body language tells a lot. So because when you communicate, a lot of things are involved. First of all, you're thinking of the psychology of the person, and then of course what exactly you're arguing about is another case of concern. But for me, I also want to look at it from a global perspective. In Liberia right now, nurses are saying that, well, from yesterday they were going on strike because they felt that the health authorities were not paying them the $700 dues, and the health authorities are saying we communicated to you through the Ministry of Health, but then they're saying you speak and we don't hear you. So you might find that also working with the populace and the government, and you find a lot of tempers also flaring.
Yeah, absolutely. So most of the time we talk and the other person is not listening.
Sure.
Anyway, talking communication, let's join Bayero Agabi as he takes us into the ICT world with Cyber Africa.
Well, of course, that was Cyber African, talking about down to transition to digitization. A lot of people are worried about content being germane because it's not enough that the world is global. We must have content to also bring to bear with that. And of course, that has been said by Mr. Emeka, Director General of the NBC, saying that it's about time Nigeria will host the Africast. Over to People's Parliament. The recent call by the National Youth Service Corps asking prospective corps members to pay the sum of 4,000 naira each before they can print out their call-up letters online has been generating issues in the society. On People's Parliament today, we bring you the reactions of our street parliamentarians. Let's take a look.
Still watching Kakaaki, the African Voice, and perspectives on the streets on the call-up access fee, online access fee for call-up letters for intending corps members. The issues, the opinions have been very polarizing, and of course on the show we'll dwell much on that. We expect to have an official from the NYSC to throw more light on that. But Adaora, what do you think about all these controversies?
I think it comes out, judging from both sides of the story. And if you want to excogitate the facts from the myth, some people will say, I'd rather stay at home in the comfort of my room and get the details that I need and directly get sent off to where I need to go to. Some people say, I might not have that much, and I don't think I can work with the existing finance that I have. So you might want to look at it from both sides.
But I think fundamentally, when people hear money in Nigeria, it's about economics.
Exactly.
We're already down and out here, and you're asking us to pay more.
I think the initiative behind the process should be revalued, and I think communication again comes into play here.
Exactly. All right, you're still watching Kakaaki, the African Voice. Time now for health tips with Adama Odafa.
This is Inside Nigeria. President Goodluck Jonathan has reiterated his confidence that the activities of insurgents and other cross-border criminals will soon be curtailed. The president said his confidence is based on the intensification of joint patrols, military operations, and intelligence sharing by Nigeria and neighboring countries, as agreed by leaders of these countries in Niamey, Niger, last week. Welcoming the Ministers of Defense and Foreign Affairs of Chad, Niger, Cameroon, and Benin Republic in Abuja on Monday, President Jonathan says such collaboration was essential for success in the war against terrorism. Well, terrorism, President says he is hopeful that with their collective experience and professionalism, he expected the visiting ministers to come up with an effective action plan for the successive implementation of the decisions reached. The leaders announced plans to step up the fight against Boko Haram with a command center for a multinational force headed by a chief of staff. The leaders also agreed to finalize the deployment of troops promised by member states to form the multinational force within their national borders by November the 1st. Former acting governor of Adaora State, Amadu Umaru Fintiri, has appealed against a judgment of the Federal High Court which removed him from office and ordered the swearing-in of James Ngelari as governor. In a notice of appeal filed by Duro Adele SAN, the former acting governor is challenging the High Court judgment on 8 grounds. Justice Adeni Ademola had held that Ngelari's purported resignation as a deputy governor of Adaora State was of no effect and also restrained the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, from conducting by-election scheduled for last Saturday. Umaru is, however, asking the Court of Appeal to remit the case back to the Federal High Court, Abuja, for trial, saying the lower court erred by admitting uncertified documents and contrary to the Evidence Act, which specify the conditions for the admissibility of public documents. He is seeking an order of interlocutory injunction restraining the implementation of the court order, even though Ngelari has been sworn in as the governor. The coroner inquest into the synagogue building collapse commenced sitting before Magistrate Oyelade Komolafe of the Lagos High Court Monday. The coroner, according to the magistrate, is not designed to punish anybody but to unravel the facts behind the incident. AIT's Afemike Etike has details.
Synagogue Church of All Nations when one of the church buildings came crashing on the 12th of September 2014. Since the incident, different reasons have been adduced for the collapse of the building that left several persons, mostly South African nationals, dead.
We are expecting parties to come and tell us what they know that would allow the coroner to come to a conclusion as to how, when, and what happened, and also to make recommendations so that this type of incident is prevented in future.
At the commencement of the sitting of the coroner inquest Monday, Counsel for the Synagogue Church of All Nations and Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Lateef Fagbemi, said the church was ready to cooperate with Presiding Magistrate Oyetade Komolafe in the course of proceedings.
The situation now is, come Thursday this week, that is 16th of October, the coroner will visit the locals. Otherwise, further proceedings will start on the 24th of October.
Chukwu Agu, who is presently leading the legal team of the Nigerian police in the matter, said while it would be too early to preempt the coroner, the police force would bring all the relevant witnesses that would provide answers to the true cause of the collapse.
We've adjourned, every trial been taken properly, and all the parties are satisfied with the decision of the coroner on the way and manner we want to present our witnesses.
The coroner, including all other interested parties in the suit, are expected to visit the site of the collapsed building Thursday to get an on-the-spot assessment of the issues before returning to the court to take evidences. Afemike Ebige, AIT News, Lagos.
Inside Nigeria, coming up next, NYSC call-up letters, the controversy is what we're looking at here from Abuja. Stay with us.
African Voice. Since last month, there have been public debate over the introduction of online printing of the National Youth Service Corps call-up letters by corps members.
Now, when the criticism against the online printing became intense, a meeting was held between the Special Advisor to the President and Youth Advisor to the President and Youth Affairs, Chudi Magwe, and the Director General of NYSC, Brigadier General Johnson Olawumi.
And after the meeting, there was nothing to indicate that the online printing will be dropped or whether the amount charged will be reduced.
Thereafter, the House of Representatives directed NYSC 2 weeks ago to suspend forthwith the policy and that a probe would be instituted on the fee charged for the process.
The House observed that as laudable as the idea is asking fresh graduates to cough out 4,000 naira to access their letters appears insensitive and exploitative.
NYSC has, however, explained that what prompted the idea was a difficulty faced by corps members to collect their letters.
According to the government agency, many corps members have died while traveling to collect their letters, and when the letters get lost, it is not replaceable.
Well, this Tuesday on Kakaaki, the African Voice, we shall be taking up issues arising from the introduction of the online printing of call-up letters by prospective corps members and the controversies surrounding it.
And we're joined on Kakaaki, the African Voice, by Mr. Anthony Ani, the man who I actually thought was from Cross River. And he's been arguing with me that his name, the Ani, actually originates from Enugu State.
No, that you borrowed it.
We're going to debate that further anyway. He is the Director, Core Mobilization, NYSC Abuja. Welcome to the program.
You're welcome, Mr. Anthony.
Thank you.
Now, of course, you've seen the controversies that have been coming from that argument, and a lot of people seem to think that it's quite esoteric to see the reasons behind it. But first, tell us a little bit about what that exactly is about.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
First and foremost, I want to say that I think there is a misconception about what we are doing, even arising from the caption I saw in your television. 4,000 naira call-up letter. It's wrong. It's not 4,000 naira for call-up letters. No. I will have to tell you the process. Our mobilization process before now. Before now, the schools will bring the list of prospective corps members And when we have finished processing it, the first thing that comes out is what we call a preliminary list. This preliminary list is to give the schools opportunity to check and make necessary corrections and then return. And by then, we are giving call-up numbers. Many prospective corps members, especially those who are married, they need the call-up numbers for their concession to be done. And so, two things were happening. Either you travel to your school to go and get the number, or you ask somebody to go to the school to go and get the number. In some cases, because normally it's pasted, this list is pasted and you know the crowd that will usually follow such things. Usually people bring wrong numbers. And when you see a married woman who has brought a wrong number and is given to you, we use it to do the concessional posting, and because it's a wrong number, it is another person that will benefit the concession. Number two, when we finish and we have printed the call-up letters, we take them to the schools. Government does not pay the prospective corps members to go and get their call-up letters from school. It is your responsibility. How you go and get it is entirely your business. And you see these prospective corps members traveling back to their schools to just go and pick call-up letters. In the past, like you said, we have lost prospective corps members. Even as recent as the last orientation, where prospective corps members were checking for their call.
All right, now, Mr. Ali, you've said quite clearly here that it seems to be a mindset,
yes,
and definitely the psychology of the people.
Yeah.
You know, once this sort of thing comes up, everybody thinks exploitation. Little wonder you just mentioned a few minutes back about, of course, the distasteful recruitment exercise that happened with Ministry, of course, Immigration and Adaora saga. But let's come back to what we're looking at today. Now, a few weeks ago, there was a meeting between the Director General of the NYSC and the Special Assistant to the President on Youth Affairs, Judy Magwe. Did that meeting agree to either reduce the fees or increase it or cancel it? What was the outcome of the meeting?
Okay.
People are asking.
Now, that meeting was a good opportunity for the Special Assistant to the Senior Special Assistant to Mr. President to be properly informed. And when he came, we explained to him. He also looked at it. He suggested at the end of it, there's need for everybody to come together and then look at possibility of reduction. Management is looking into that. Don't forget, management cannot just midway. This is a process. It is after we have finished, we've concluded the mobilization process for this batch, we'll come back to the drawing board, ask ourselves questions alongside with the company, and then we'll now look at what we can do. So I cannot say here whether the money will be reduced or not. It has to take the same process. It's a process. So, but in every project you are doing, there must be evaluation. You have to evaluate what's happened about the project and where the way forward. That's this thing. So let's watch and see.
Let's watch and see. Now, still talking about reactions. When you go through the social media and you listen to people on the streets, if you want to excogitate the facts from the reality, people have said that perhaps this is misplaced priority. And a lot of the pundits have argued from the placement where they say a lot of the camps are horrific on site and needs a lot of work to be done. Yeah. And rather than concentrate on that and see how those quarters or how those living spaces can be rejuvenated, they're talking about taking more money from graduates. Do you think that argument stands? Because then you want to say, fine, on one side it could be mindset, another side it could be, you know, freedom of expression.
No, everybody is free to make any expression. That's one gift our democracy has given to us. But And we want members of the public to try and understand the NYSC. It's most unfortunate that even those who pass through the NYSC, some of them don't understand the NYSC. The NYSC Act is part of the ground norm. If you go to section 315 of the Constitution, you will see that the NYSC is one of the acts that is embedded in it. Now, the NYSC is a baby of all the tiers of the government, federal, state, and local government. When you talk about CAMS, it's solely the responsibility of state governments, not federal government, not even the NYSC. It's there. If you read sections 8, 9, 7, 8, 9, it will clearly tell you what you have, what everybody is supposed to do. When you talk about accommodation of core members in camp, it is the state government. And that's why I said people should try to understand the NYSC. As a state coordinator in one of the states, when I was talking to the governor then, he said, no, go to Abuja, this is federal government project. I was shocked. I had to educate him that this is your role. The same thing with the local government chairman. The accommodation of core members posted within the local government is their responsibility, their welfare, their protection. But nobody does it. Oh, it's federal government project. It's federal government project. It is not. It is. In fact, that's why it is not called Federal Government Service Corps. It is National Youth Service Corps. Everybody has a role to play in it. And let me use this opportunity to say it. People should go and read the NYSC Act and know whose responsibility it is. Because even when you go to defend your budget, this act, that's what you use. So I want people to know that. There are some states that are trying. In fact, there are some states you go, when you see their camps, is state-of-the-art camp. Okay? But there are some states, they pay little attention to these core members. So when you look at it, you now find that there is need for us to start asking ourselves questions. This National Youth Service Corps, are we owning it? As a state, every state is supposed to own the youth service, because the core members who are coming there are supposed to provide services. They are not supposed to tell you where they are supposed to serve. If a state says, all I want is education, you are duty bound to post the core members to the schools.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Anthony Ani, Director, Core Mobilization, NYSC, Abuja. And we've been discussing the 4,000 naira access fee charged by the NYSC for prospective core members, and he's been trying to explain and give reasons why that is necessary. And the most interesting part of this discussion is it's optional. For those who want to go for it, you go for it. If you feel traveling back to your school to get your call-up letters is okay, then fine. So that gives everybody an option to go for. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming.
For being on the program.
Pleasure having you as always.
Thank you.
You're still watching Kakaaki, the African Voice. The show continues after this short break. Stay with us.
This is Pan-African World News. Some health workers in Liberia have turned up for work, defying calls for a strike and the Ebola outbreak. There are also reports of workers heeding the strike call. The National Health Workers Association wants an increase in the monthly risk fee paid to those treating Ebola cases. Liberia is worst affected by the deadliest ever Ebola outbreak. At least 30 people have been killed and more than a dozen injured after 3 minibuses collided in southern Egypt's Atwan province. A source said the minibuses were believed to have been speeding. A senior security source said the vehicles are often used as informal taxis. The accident occurred on a desert highway near the historic town of Edfu. Somalia's government has launched its first postal service in more than 2 decades. It has also introduced postcodes nationwide for the first time in the country's history. The postal service fell into disuse when long-serving ruler Said Barre's regime collapsed in 1991. Its reintroduction is the latest sign that some normality is returning to Somalia after more than 2 decades of clan and religious-based conflict. Last week, Somalia's first ever cash withdrawal machine was installed in the capital, Mogadishu. The coroner inquest into the synagogue building collapse commenced sitting before Magistrate Oyelade Komolafe of the Lagos High Court Monday. The coroner, according to the magistrate, is not designed to punish anybody but to unravel the facts behind the incident. President Goodluck Jonathan has reiterated his confidence that the activities of insurgents and other cross-border criminals will soon be curtailed. The president said the confidence is based on the intensification of joint patrols, military operations and intelligence sharing by Nigeria and neighboring countries as agreed by leaders of those countries in Niamey, Niger last week. That's the Pan-African news station. We'll be right back. Coming up next, Atiba will be taking us through the front headline stories. Stay with us.
Welcome back to Abuja. Interesting discussions there.
Indeed. I think, Uti, when you look at this, there's been a concentric circle of controversies surrounding this issue with the synagogue church. First of all, we heard it was a UFO object, chemical reaction over the roof, and now we're hearing this side of the story. A lot more will come out, I dare say. So
many conspiracy theories. But fundamentally, what Nigerians want to find out is whose responsibility it is to defend, to protect the building, to secure the building. Because if you have a house, if you have a property, then whatever happens to that property and what's inside is your responsibility. Indeed. Interesting one there. And that's Kakaaki for today, Tuesday, October 14, 2014. We thank you so much for being a part of it, and it's been wonderful hanging out with Adaora today.
Yeah, hanging out with you too.
We'll have more of that.
On Friday. Don't make me stubborn. All right, for me, I would say you can choose to sit down and mobilize by the gravity of your losses or do something about it. And I'm saying this to those who have lost people, of course, through that incident happened at Synagogue Church. We bear your loss with you, and may the souls of those who have passed and rest in peace perfect. My name is Adaora.
And I'm Utubo Moran. Have a wonderful day.